Welcome to our first Legends class. Thank you. Oh no, it's not about me. We're going to have a new weekly lecture series here at the Chess Club and Scholastic Center talking about the legends of chess. Now, I don't mean Ken West, but maybe later. We're going to go back in time 50, 100, 150 years and talk about famous grandmasters of the past. This week, we're going to talk about one of my favorites, because it's my class, Vasily Smyslov. Vasily Smyslov was the world chess champion. And not only was he the world chess champion in the 1950s, he also was a candidate for the world championship in 1983. And in fact, lost a match to Garry Kasparov. And then Garry Kasparov played Karpov for the world championship. This was in 1984. Okay, I think Orwell predicted that. He said Smyslov will lose to Kasparov. Okay, and Smyslov was, I think, 63 years old at the time. Now, this is one of my favorite Smyslov games because it was a candidates match against Zoltan Ribli, who was one of the top 20 players in the world. And I thought Ribli was going to beat Smyslov because Smyslov was not the youngest. And Smyslov won the match quite easily. And I talked to my good friend Edmar Mednis, American grandmaster, and I said, how did Smyslov beat Ribli? Smyslov's pretty old. And he said, Smyslov is a world-class grandmaster world champion. Ribli's just some grandmaster, not the same level. And I was like, okay. So I think this is the only candidate cycle that Ribli played in. Now, Smyslov had a nickname. Does anybody know what it was? No, it was the hand. It was his hand put on the piece and made the move, and that was the right move. His hand always found the right piece to move. And Smyslov, at one point, had more grandmaster norms than anybody. I think Karpov passed him. And according to our resident know-it-all, Jacob Wilkins, was that a good name for him? Yeah? Okay, that was a nice name for him. Jacob said, computer analysis shows Smyslov played better than anybody. Like, he played with like almost no errors for years and years and years and years. Not that he would beat everybody, he'd have a lot of draws, but he made basically error-free chess even in his 50s and 60s. Now, Smyslov was known for boring, grind you down, beat you in 80 moves chess, where it would be sort of a boring game and you'd lose and wouldn't know why. You're like, oh, my game's no good, what happened? Okay, this game is different. In this game, Smyslov gave Ribli the smackdown, going for checkmate, attacking with his queen, sacrificing material, playing brilliant tactics, all in his 60s. Okay, so they started out in a queen's pawn opening, sort of a queen's gambit, Semi-Tarrasch, not too interesting, just developing their pieces and castling. Okay, A3, pretty slow, nothing much going on. And in this position, Smyslov played queen to C2. The queen's right here. Who can tell me why Smyslov played queen to C2? What's his queen doing? Ken West is like, I tell you, but I can't see the board. What does that move do, Ken?
It attacks the H-pawn.
Yeah, the queen and bishop make a battery that go all the way to the H-pawn. So if it was white's move, white could play bishop takes H7 check. Do you think his opponent saw that? Yeah, and he played H6. Now there's no pawn to capture. Oh well. Okay, and Ribli. Smyslov played rook to D1, because the rook is better in the center than it is on the side. Now, let's look at this funny variation. There's a knight here and a bishop here, and they both attack this pawn. How many white pieces are defending that pawn? You, sir. No, not you, him. One. And since 2 is more than 1, you would think black would take this pawn. Takes, takes, takes. Yay! Black is a pawn ahead. But if you remember white's last move, before this happened, it was rook to D1. And this rook is on the same line as 3 black pieces. Okay, usually you don't want 3 pieces lined up with your opponent's rook, because your opponent's rook might start taking them. Now, can the white rook jump over the bishop and take? No, I can't do that. But we can play bishop check, as suggested earlier by Ken West. King takes bishop is illegal, so Robert Hess would get mad, because the computer won't let me do it, because there's a queen defending it. So king goes to H8. Now my rook can take it. Do you think the player with the black pieces let his bishop get taken like that? Nope. That's why they're playing for the world championship, and we're sitting in a very scary room. Okay? There's a reason. Okay. So Ribli played queen to b6. Wow, that guy's really good. He's attacking the pawn again. Okay, that's pretty mean. He's attacking it 3 times, it's defended once. I wonder if Smyslov gave up. No. Okay, well, we're not doing a story on Ribli yet, maybe in 10 years. Smyslov played bishop c4. Now he's got a knight and a bishop attacking this knight, and his rook is defending the pawn. Complicated. Ribli played rook d8 for the same reason Smyslov played rook d1. He's defending the d file. Man, these guys are good. Knight to e2, the knight is defending the d4 pawn. Now black can't take it. Bishop d7, as in the famous game between Julian Perlenko and Matt Barrett yesterday. Bishop to d7. You agree?
Yeah.
Okay, was it 2 days ago? Yeah, sorry. Okay, and now white played queen e4. White is reversing his metaphors, okay? That made very little sense. Now you remember earlier in the game, white's queen and bishop were lined up. Well, now he's going to reverse his queen and bishop so the queen could go down there and give checkmate. That guy's pretty good. So queen e4, and then bishop to d3. Now the queen and bishop have reversed roles, and the queen can come down to h7. Black played bishop a4, attacking the rook. And he said, I'm not afraid of this check. That's not checkmate. And white said, okay, cool. And Ken West, what did black play?
He had to move the king.
He moved the king. And then he played rook e1 because his rook is attacked, and he didn't like that. Now, if he played queen h8 check, who thinks that that's checkmate? Ooh, I do. I couldn't fool anybody, even Ben Simon. Now black can play knight to g8, blocking the queen. So he didn't do that. He saved his rook, rook e1, bishop b5 to trade bishops, and they traded bishops. Knight to g3. This knight is going to h5, and then the knight and the queen are really attacking this king on f8. Knight to g6. Now the queen's trapped. If queen h8, knight takes queen. Knight to e5. The knight is aggressive. It's attacking the knight. The knight is defended twice. And white's getting his knights into the attack to help his queen out. Knight e7. That defends the other knight. And now a shocking move, especially in a beginner class. I don't want to scare any of you. White played a move I usually wouldn't recommend. Alex Marler might recommend it, but he's the boss, so. Played bishop takes h6, giving up his bishop. Okay. However, black was very smart and didn't take the bishop. If black takes the bishop, which looks free, then you know what I like to say? No, if it's free, it's for me. Yeah. Now white has checkmate in one move. Checkmate's good. Can one of our ladies solve it? They look anxious to answer. Yeah, I know. They're anxious to run away. They're like, where's the door? White has checkmate in one move. I always recommend that. True story. The people at home were like, wait, I can almost get this. Ah. If you look at the difference in this position, there's a black pawn on g7, so the queen can't move sideways. And after we sacrifice our bishop, that pawn's gone. Now the queen can move sideways. True story. With a lot of good supporting characters. You see where that queen can move sideways and give checkmate? Yeah? Yeah. Queen to f7. And now the knight is protecting the queen. Okay, so black didn't want that to happen, so black took this knight. Then white played knight h5, an amazing move. Normally when somebody takes something, you take back. On the other hand, checkmate's also good. So white played knight h5. White has 3 pieces attacking the g7 square. This king doesn't look very safe. So this is tough. Not only is white threatening to take on g7 many different ways, white's also threatening this knight on e5. One of the things I tell my students is if you're attacking somebody, use all of your attackers. And then my students are like, that's too hard, I'm gonna go play bug house, and my partner will give me more pieces I can attack with. Okay, and then they're pretty good at bug house. Okay, so here white has a lot of pieces attacking, and black didn't like that. Now black played a very strange move here, knight f3 check, forking the king and rook. So white's like, okay, I'll take it. Now a very strange tactic did not occur, but it could have. Black could have played queen takes knight. Right, Ken? Now white has a move that wins that queen. Could somebody who's not Julian find it? Ken West? What? Actually raising his hand on purpose. It wasn't to like wave the flies away. What's that? Bishop takes g7 check as a discovered attack. These queens are lined up. So after bishop g7, wait, I can't play because I wasn't played. Check. Black has to get out of check. So black says thank you. And white takes a queen. And black actually saw that, so black didn't do that. Black didn't want to lose his queen. So black played knight to f5, defending his g7 pawn. So now black has 3 pieces defending his pawn. White played knight takes bishop. Pawn takes knight is illegal because you'd be in check. So black didn't do that. Black played knight takes bishop. Now d5 was played, a brilliant move. The reason is, if you play pawn takes pawn, which is a terrible move, you're opening up the line for this rook, which means the king can't escape. So you just get checkmated. And now queen takes is checkmate, or if you're one of the cool kids, knight h7 is checkmate. But that wouldn't be most of you in here, I guess. Okay. And the reason it's checkmate is that the rook is stopping the king from escaping. That's why white played d5. He was hoping for pawn takes pawn. Is that what black did and got mated? No. He played queen takes b2, winning a pawn and attacking the knight. White played the most amazing move ever, queen check, and rook takes e6 check. And this is actually almost checkmate, almost. Black has one legal move. Who can find it? Black has only one possible move here. What's that? Well, the rook's attacking the king, and you can't go to e8 because all these pieces are here. You can't go to d7 because the knight's protecting it. It's almost checkmate. Almost. Luckily, black has one possible move. What's that? He has to take the rook. You can't take with the king because of the pawn on d5. You have to take with the pawn. The reason white sacrificed his rook is now this pawn isn't here. It was their last move. And now queen takes g7 is check. And now black has some issues. Okay, if black plays the obvious move, king to d6, now knight e4 check, it's check, and the queen is attacking your queen. So when you get out of check, I'm going to take your queen. So black played knight f7. This is a very funny part of the game. Your typical player, like Grandmaster Ken West, would play knight g8 check, and then he would play queen takes queen next move, and he would be all proud of himself. However, after rook takes knight, queen takes queen is illegal. Then he'd be like, ah, because the rook is pitting the queen to the king. So you can't play queen takes queen. It won't let me. The computer won't let me do it because it's illegal. And now white loses his queen, white loses the game. Luckily, for chess fans all over the world, Smyslov was better than Ken West. Okay, and Smyslov played an amazing move. Now, earlier today, in one of my classes, one of my students tried to take their own piece. You remember that, right? Okay. And in fact, that's exactly what white would do here if it was allowed. White would take his own pawn with check and then play queen takes queen. But that's not allowed. Sir? You can. That's why I called on you. So white played d6 check, and now that pawn's not there. So now the knight has access to that square. So after black took the pawn, now white played that check and took the queen. And if we count the pieces, white has a queen for a rook and a knight. And white has an extra pawn. White has 4 pawns to 3. So black has good drawing chances because there's not much on the board, but white kept tricking black later. Not very nice of him. Okay, and I'll show you the tricks that were played later. They're pretty cool. Okay, in this position, black is in check because black is in check. And black made a mistake. He blocked the check. And he's like, well, I blocked the check, and my knight's attacking your rook. And white said, oh, your knight's attacking my rook. I'll move my rook here. King takes rook is illegal because there's a queen here. So black's like, thanks for the rook. Nice of you. And now the rook is pinned to the king. The rook can't move. So what move did white play to attack the rook again? Does Grandmaster Ken West know? Yeah?
G4.
That's almost legal. Try again. You mean the right move. He meant F4. He just said G4. Yeah, F4. Right. Okay. And then black's like, hey, I'm losing my rook. And so this happened. And now, if black plays knight takes pawn, it would be a Britney Spears moment in 1983. Hard to understand. Oops, I lost that piece again. F4, and it still can't move. So black didn't fall for it again. And he played queen check. If king takes pawn, then queen takes knight. And where'd black's pieces go? Off the board. So in this position, black must play king e7. And if I was white, I would probably play f4. And this doesn't look good for black. It looks so bad for black that what did black do, Julian? Resigned. So the guy in his 60s is sacking everything on him and beating him in a candidates match. Embarrassing, yeah. So you can imagine how good he was when he was in his 20s and 30s, winning all of his games. Now, I was saying before the class, but some of you weren't here, and I'm sure you weren't here at home. I did a database search, and I said Vasily Smyslov, 1945 to 1980, Smyslov is white, Smyslov won. And if I did that for you at home, it would say you won 0 games because you weren't born yet, okay? 1980, none of you were born yet, okay? No, in the internet, not you. You're here. Okay, and how many games did Smyslov win from 1945 to 1980 with white? 500. Ken West is like, I haven't played 500 games yet. Yeah.
I lost 500.
You lost 500, and he still hasn't played 500 games. It's amazing. Okay, so Smyslov won a lot. That's a pretty good player. Now, some of you have heard of Anatoly Karpov. For example, this side of the room, and probably half of this side of the room, right? Yeah? Yeah, half, I was right. Yeah, one nodded and one shook their head. Yeah, I was right. Okay, Anatoly Karpov was world champion for many, many, many years, and he's been at our chess club a few times. He won a match with one of our other rotating GMs, Yasser Seirawan. He doesn't rotate as much as I do, so I think that's why Karpov beat him. Now, Karpov in 1971 was quite a good player, probably number 5 in the world or so. So he lasted about 20 moves against Smyslov. Okay, Smyslov was white, and he played the English. So if you speak, perfect French, then you saw Sammy Shoker's video, which was posted a few days ago, talking about the English opening. Very funny because it was in French. So, okay, and they played, and they actually got to a very similar position that we saw last game. Isn't this what happened last game? It was sort of like this. I think this might have actually been the position from last game. And then Smyslov played queen c2, attacking the h-pawn. Okay. Yeah, a3. So he played rook e1 here. Notice how the rook is on this open line. Awesome. Knight f6, retreating. Is Karpov a French player? No. Okay. a3, stopping knight to b4. Something Julian didn't do, so his opponent played knight to b4. True story. Yeah. Okay. b6. Also, Julian's opponent didn't do that. Some people don't like this bishop on c8 because they can't jump over the pawn. So Karpov's like, no problem. b6, bishop goes here, greatest bishop ever. Okay. In 1971, Karpov went to the internet and typed in greatest.bishop.eva. I couldn't believe Karpov did that, but he was a world champion. So, okay. White played bishop c2. Now, if you remember the previous game, and you don't, but if you did, you would remember Smyslov lined up his queen and bishop and got his queen down there. Well, he's doing the same thing. How could he do that? Okay, bishop there, queen to d3. Now, queen takes h7 isn't checkmate because there's a knight defending it. So I guess Smyslov's got to take care of that first. Rook c8, bishop g5. Now Smyslov's taking care of it. Let's play a bad move. That way you'll all feel at home. Let's play a6. Now bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, checkmate. Did Karpov let the guy checkmate him in 14 moves? No. Otherwise, we wouldn't let him come to the chess club here. So what did Karpov do to stop this checkmate with queen takes h7? If you were black, what would you do, Ken West? Because that looks pretty dangerous, right?
I would push the
You would push the g pawn. That's what he did. g6. Now the queen can't jump over the pawn, so that mate is stopped permanently. Okay, Smyslov played rook a d1, Morphy style, because this rook on a1 was doing nothing. I'm an expert on that. And the rook went to d1, now it's in the center. So look at white's pieces, perfect. Black's pieces, also pretty good, although a little passive, mainly on the first and second rank. Don't want to go too far. Okay, Karpov played knight to d5, which is a discovered attack. Okay, notice the bishops are on the same diagonal, but there's a knight in the middle. Once the knight moves, all the bishops are attacking each other. So Smyslov's like, hey, my bishop's attacked. So he played bishop h6, attacking the rook. Did Karpov give away his rook? No. He played rook e8. Bishop a4, pinning the knight to the rook. That's not very nice. Now that knight can't move because he'll lose his rook. Karpov played a6. Karpov's like, I'm going to play b5 and kick your bishop away. That'll show you. And Smyslov's like, you can't talk during the game. Got the director. Big hassle followed. Knight takes knight. Which way did Karpov take back? With the queen or the pawn? And which is better? The answer to both is I don't know. Yes. Queen takes, you play like Karpov. Very good. If pawn takes, that's strategically unfortunate because your bishop is here on this nice long diagonal and you just close the diagonal. Now your bishop's not going to do anything. And Karpov's like, no, no, no. Queen takes. Now my queen and bishop were all hooked up over here. So now Smyslov blundered mate, knight e5, knight takes e5, rook takes e5, checkmate. Now you know why Karpov lined his queen and bishop up. No, Smyslov didn't do that. No. Okay. Smyslov's like, wait a minute, I can't do that. I get mated. So Smyslov played queen e3, lining up his queen and bishop. Now he has a battery. Bishop f6, bishop b3, attacking the queen. Karpov's like, all right, I'll move my queen. Queen h5. And queen h5 normally would attack that bishop on h6. But Smyslov knew that was going to happen, so he already protected it with his queen before he attacked the queen. The kind of finesse that Julian would make. He's like, I would? d5, the winning move. That's the other reason for queen e3. In fact, if you look with a computer engine, it's going to say bishop f6 is a blunder. In this position, Karpov played bishop f6, and he's like, I'm the greatest. I'm attacking this pawn with three things. My bishop's on a good square, knight's on a good square, but the queen and rook are lined up against this rook now. Karpov didn't notice that. So after d5, Karpov's like, if I take that pawn, then I get checkmated, which isn't good. That's good for white. Okay, so Karpov's like, oh, I can't take that pawn. I guess I better move my knight, because my knight's attacked. Well, Karpov played knight to d8, defending his e-pawn with three different things. Now his bishop looks good. And Smyslov's like, you know what I like to do with pawns? I like to promote them to queens. Do you guys like to do that also, Ryan Chester?
Absolutely.
And you guys are like, Karpov's not going to let that pawn promote to a queen. You're crazy. Yeah, it did take 4 moves. Yeah, so a little crazy. So Smyslov played d6. And now if it was white's move, d7 would be very, very, very annoying. And if you guys went home for Thanksgiving, you know what annoying is, right? You know who your family is. Okay, so Smyslov's like, wait a minute, I don't want to have my rooks forked by a pawn, or Karpov said that. So Karpov played rook to c5. Now this pawn only attacks 1 rook, not 2 rooks. d7, rawr. What's the only safe square for the rook? You got 2 squares, one of them is safe. Which one's safe? Should we ask Dustin Hoffman? Yeah.
I mean, E7.
E7. Yeah.
Why did he just move his bishop
Okay, good question. If you play bishop c6, because you want the pawn to go to d7 so you can take it, there's a white rook here backing it up. So if you play d7 and you take this pawn, you're going to lose your bishop. And that bishop's worth more than a pawn, although not this game. But in theory it is, not in practice. Okay, so Karpov tried not to lose his bishop, but he couldn't. He just lasted longer than you would have lost the bishop, but he still lost the piece. So d7, rook e7 was played as suggested. And now queen f4. Queen f4 is the meanest move you've ever seen. It threatens queen takes bishop. That's a free bishop. And queen here, that's really annoying. When the queen goes to b8, pinning the knight to the king, and the knight can't be protected, that's tough. Okay, so Karpov should have resigned here, because queen b8 is going to be really mean. But he played bishop g7, saving his bishop, queen b8. Yeah, that's not good. How did he not lose all of his pieces? Well, Karpov must have been great. How did he not lose like 8 pieces here? He played queen takes bishop, queen takes knight, always play, bishop f8. Now white can't queen because his queen's in the way. Okay, and white played a very funny move. Queen, he played rook e3. I didn't know he did that. Bishop c6, as you recommended, he's going to take the pawn. And now queen takes f8. So white sacrifices his queen because he's going to queen his pawn. In the meantime, the bishop on f8 disappears. So white replaces his queen with a queen, and black's bishop is gone. Queen. And so if we count the pieces, you'll notice white is a knight ahead. And Karpov's like, I'm down a knight. What? And he did something none of you will ever do. He gave up because he was down a knight. The grandmaster level, usually when we're down a knight, I've never been down a knight, so I don't know. But then usually you resign. I'm usually down a lot more than that. You hear me talking, Grandmaster Ken West? You ever been down a knight? Do you resign or you keep fighting?
I keep fighting.
That's right. Yeah, and usually you win? Yeah. Okay, so I guess I might resign, but if I was playing Smyslov. But against you guys, I'd still be racking up the point. Okay, so here white won a free knight because that passed pawn finally promoted. And as you all know, pawn promotion equals everlasting love, right? Didn't you wish somebody their pawns promoted? I forgot who that was. Yeah. Okay, so that was pretty cool. Now, one of Smyslov's most famous games, if not his most famous game, I'm sure Julian's memorized it, was a game from 1953. This was one of the most famous tournaments ever. The Candidates Tournament in what city, Ken West?
53.
Yep. Anybody know? It's one of the most famous tournaments ever. In your favorite country of Switzerland.
Biel.
Close. Biel's now. This was in 1953. Zurich. You named a city in Switzerland. Very good. Zurich 53, there's a very famous tournament book written by David Bronstein. Maybe I'll do a lecture about him. In this tournament, all the best players in the world played. Who won the tournament, Ken West?
53,
Smyslov, right. Okay, and everybody was the best. World champions, everybody. Even world champions in other sports, track and field. Okay, so this game was the famous Estonian grandmaster, Paul Keres. How good was Paul Keres at chess? Thanks for asking. If you have money in Estonia, he's on the money. He's a chess player. He's pretty good. And I have a 5-crown note with Paul Keres on it. Okay, so he must have played pretty well. But this is a Smyslov lecture, so Keres going down. Okay, now this is a funny game because Keres gets 9,000 pieces attacking Smyslov's king. Smyslov's like, whatever. You can't mate me. You know who I am? So this game was pretty cool because everybody expected Smyslov to get checkmated. Okay, sort of similar opening as to the last games. Not the most exciting. Okay, and everybody's got all their pieces out and castled, just like in your games. Okay, rook c1, rook c8. Everybody's making their pieces good. Now, Smyslov wants to take this bishop. And also, he's opening up the diagonal for his own bishop by moving the knight out of the way. Bishop f1, always play bishop f1. Knight e4. Wow, those knights look pretty menacing. Now, this knight can be captured twice, but it's also protected twice, so it's safe. a3 attacking the knight. Little trade. Now, if the bishop takes the knight, then the knight can attack the bishop and the rook, and the board design. and the bishop is attacking this pawn. That's too much attacking. We can't have so much attacking, not in a beginner class. So white played rook takes c3. Rook c3 looks weird, but what white's going to do is move his rook over here and try to checkmate black. I wonder if he succeeded. Now the pawn's attacking the knight, obviously, so he moved the knight away. Knight e5, getting out of the way of the rook and getting out of the way of the queen. Looks ominous, so many arrows. Knight takes knight, rook takes, bishop f6. And he played rook h5, which is not a square you want your rook on, but he wanted to checkmate black because that seemed like a good plan. So he played rook h5. Smyslov said, get your rook out of there. And Keres said, no, that's okay, I think I'll checkmate you instead. Okay, and the idea is, he took the pawn, but if you take the rook, and I play queen takes h5, that looks pretty scary. Ken West is like, I win these positions all the time. My queen and the collie, queen and rook. Okay, and Smyslov's like, that doesn't scare me. I'll just take this pawn. Now my queen is opened up. My bishop's opened up. My other bishop's opened up. This bishop had too much to drink. Okay, and now I'm a pawn ahead, and my pawn's going to queen just like in the last game. And Keres is like, time to checkmate you. Rook takes h7. So look at these rooks near black's king. That looks pretty scary. But the bishop on f6 is defending. Defense. Okay, like in falling down? No. Okay. You, incorrect. What's that? Have you seen this game? No? So what if it wasn't? No. He played c3, just as good as Smyslov. Now you're threatening the bishop. And this rook, like me, is overworked. The rook is defending the rook and defending this pawn over here to be captured. That rook can't go both ways at the same time. So queen c1, sacrificing the bishop because the queen wants to go here. That looks pretty scary if the queen gets to h6. Queen takes d4, because when the queen gets to h6, he's tripled up on the h-file, but black has 3 pieces defending h8. So black's defending and taking pawns. Queen h6, looks scary. Rook to d8, play in the center. So black's got his rooks where he wants them. Bishop is great. As long as he doesn't get checkmated, he's all set. Okay, but it's hard to checkmate because if you play rook h8 check, that doesn't work. I just keep taking it. Black has a lot of pieces on h8. And if you're playing giveaway, then you're all set. But if you're playing regular chess, you lost all your pieces. Okay, so Keres didn't want to lose his bishop. Instead, he played bishop c1. Now, in this position. Now let's go back. Some of you were wondering, why did black play rook to d8? Isn't there a free bishop here? I like free bishops. Ken West is like, I would have taken that bishop, right? Now, unfortunately for Ken West, if he was black, white has mate in 2. So mate in 2 is good. If you're taking notes, write that down. Mate in 2, good job. Do you see it, Grandmaster?
Yes.
Yeah, what is it?
Mate in 2?
Yeah. He said yes. What? He tricked me. Ken West always tricking me.
Yeah, rook to h8.
Bishop takes rook.
Queen takes bishop.
No, there's a queen on d4.
Uh-oh.
But you were still right. That's how good you are. That's why we call him Grandmaster. He says the wrong moves and he's still right. Rook h8 check, and now you don't play queen takes bishop, you play queen h7.
Of course.
Or, Julian doesn't like that mate. Julian prefers rook g7 and then queen h7 mate. You'll notice if the black king could go to f8, that wouldn't be mate. Now you know why Smyslov played bishop f8, rook to d8. Because now the king can run away. The king can escape. So bishop c1, saving the bishop. Bishop g7, attacking the queen. Queen g5, queen f6. He's like, get your queen out of there. Queen g4, c2. Man, Smyslov's always getting a queen. How does he do that? Bishop to e2, that stops rook d1, supposedly. Rook d4, attacking the queen. You can't move the queen anywhere because then rook d1 is really, really, really good. If we go back a move, if you play rook d1 now, which probably still wins, then white can start taking everything. But if white's queen wasn't on g4, which is why Smyslov played rook d4, now you can't start taking everything. And now it's just checkmate. Let's make a rook because it's funnier. Checkmate. Okay, so keeping the queen on g4 for defense, white played f4. Rook d1 check anyway because of the obvious Julian foreseen move.
Well, after bishop takes, you only have queen d4.
You have queen d4 check because the f pawn's not on f2 anymore. That pawn was on f2, it wouldn't be check. Queen d4 check, and black's going to have, boy, black queens every game. Smyslov knows how to queen. Okay, and white resigned because not only is black queening, white's getting checkmated. So that checkmate didn't work, right? Ben Simon's disgusted. He's like, I thought there was going to be a mate on h8. Okay, so that was a famous game because while they were playing the game, the spectators were looking at all those queens and rooks against the guy's king. And Smyslov's like, I got it, no problem. I'd be afraid if I was playing. Okay, now, we haven't talked about me enough this lecture. So let's do that. Now, let's talk about me and Vasily, because that rhymes. Smyslov was ending his career when I was starting mine, and in 1984, I went to Soviet Russia, or it went to me. And I went to the Moscow Central Chess Club, and I played in some simul's, and one of them was against Vasily Smyslov. He was crushing me the whole game, and then I won, because he blundered. Then we played for reals. In 1988 in London, we played in a real tournament, and I was white. And we played the Nimzo-Indian. Now, I'm not showing you this game because it was Smyslov or it was me, but something cool happened afterwards. We got to this position, and I was wondering, he's going to take my bishop. Should I play bishop takes knight, or should I retreat my bishop? What? I played bishop c3. The game ended in an 18-move draw, and I drew Smyslov. Yay! He got his revenge for beating him in a simul. All right. And okay, the game actually wasn't very interesting. Now, later in life, there was a World Championship match at the World Trade Center in what was it, 1995? Yeah. Okay, and there was a game between Kasparov and Anand, the two best players in the world. And what do you know? They got the same position. Okay, and I played bishop c3, and Kasparov played bishop takes f6. And when the game was being played, people were looking to see what games had been previously played, and they said, oh, in the game Finegold-Smyslov, bishop c3, and it was a draw. So Kasparov must have known that game, studied my games intently, and played bishop takes f6. Either that, or he played a match with Smyslov the year before, and then he was looking at Smyslov's games and saw it. Okay, so Kasparov played bishop takes f6, and that game also ended in a draw. So I guess this position's equal. Okay, so I was reading in every magazine and newspaper, they quoted my game with Smyslov in this position. Even though my game was a boring draw, the world champions decided to play it. And Kasparov thanked me later. Wait, I made that part up. Okay. Now, last time I saw Kasparov, he's like, you lost to Brian Gerald. True story. I'm not making that up. That happened. And I was like, ugh. Right after I beat Keres, too. I was like, I beat Keres. He's like, who? Fidel?
Wait, I thought you lost to Gerald and then you beat Keres.
Right. But he talked to me about it after I beat Keres. He's like, I heard about a game you played. And I was like, that's right. He's like, Brian Gerald. I'm like, no. Okay. Terrible. Okay. Now, the last game is my favorite because they don't have to lecture anymore. Man, nothing. Again, this is a game Smyslov played a long time ago when he was really good. And he was playing a Russian guy's name who I can't pronounce. So also good. And they got to this position, which is a boring endgame. That's when Smyslov really played well. Now, the reason black is better, black gets a better king, which you'll see soon, and white's pawn structure is very suspicious. Doubled pawns, isolated pawns, terrible. Also, black's pawns are on dark squares, so I don't think this bishop is going to attack them unless there's some cheating going on. But these pawns are on white squares for a long time. Okay, now there's something called fixing your opponent's pawn structure. That's all Ken West ever thinks about. Right? In fact, in a dream he had last night, which I shouldn't talk about, he was like, oh man, that pawn can't move. That's what he was thinking. Okay, so white wants to play g5, and then black's king can't move. Then the game would be a draw. So Smyslov played g5, and now these pawns stay here forever. That's not good because then they're going to get captured. Okay, and both sides move their kings up because that's how they roll. And now black's king is better than white's king because black's king is further up the board. Black's king is on the 4th or 5th row, and white's king is on the 3rd row. But it looks like it should be a draw because everything's the same everywhere. 2 pawns over here, 4 pawns over here. And this is why Smyslov was so strong. Okay, and he played the move h6. So even before I was saying it, he was putting it in h. Okay, and now it's hard for white to move because if white's king moves, black's king is going to get in here. So he played bishop f3, and he's like, I got no problem. Bishop c2, he's like, no problem. a6, and slowly he expands on the queen side. And this guy's like, well, if we trade all the pawns, that's a draw. That's okay. And now this pawn is attacked. Aw. How do we defend our pawn? Well, if we defend with the bishop, then bishop b3 attacks our pawn. And that's what he did. Then he attacked our pawn on b5. And Smyslov's like, wait a minute, if I go back and defend, he'll go back and defend. So Smyslov calculated 100 moves ahead, I would assume till mate, because he mated him. I think he calculated a mate here. That's how you would do it. He played bishop c4. Now, if white doesn't do anything, he's going to lose this pawn for nothing and lose the game. So white's like, I'm going to make a queen. He took, and he played a4. He's like, a5. I saw Smyslov do this before, even though it hadn't happened yet. a5, a6, a7, a8. Smyslov's like, no, you're not going to queen. I got you. You got nothing. And he's like, well, wait a minute. If your king goes all the way over here, my king's going to go over here and take all your pawns. So that's what happened. But Smyslov had it figured out. d5 check, d4. And the guy's like, thank you. And Smyslov's like, I know how to queen. c3. This pawn's going to queen. d5 check. White wants to queen 2 pawns. And Smyslov's like, go right ahead. King d7, go queen your a pawn. I dare you, I double dare you. And that's what happened. Everybody queened. And it's black's turn to move. And black played Julian's favorite move.
Queen F4.
Queen f4, checkmate. Usually in a queen upon ending, you don't checkmate somebody. And in my opinion, but he's not alive anymore, so I can't ask him. When he played bishop c4, he saw that position. You agree?
After he took on d5, I was going to ask if he put queen f4.
Yeah, so you think he saw it here? Yeah, he was like, takes, here, 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 here. And then he's like, wait a minute, that pawn can't queen because I made him. Yeah, so as long as you see 20 moves ahead, you're as good as Smyslov. Although you have a good chance now. Okay, and to wrap up the lecture about Smyslov, not only was he beating everybody at chess, he was also a famous singer, and he would sing at closing ceremonies, opera singer. You ever heard him sing? No, why not? And also, I was married at a chess tournament, like most of you, especially Julian. And my first wedding, let's see, how many did I have? Was in Hastings at the famous chess tournament in England. And since he was playing in the tournament, he showed up at my wedding. So I had one world champion at my wedding. And I was like, dude, I crushed you before. No, I didn't say that. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed the lecture on Vasily Smyslov, one of my favorite players, a great world champion, a champion, I believe in 1957, but hopefully the YouTube comments will be like, not 57, you idiot, and they'll be telling me like the actual year. Okay, I think it was 57. What's that? You agree? Yeah, cool. Okay, so I'm not as dumb as I look. And he was a great player. He made very few mistakes. Lots of opening variations are named after him. In the Ruy Lopez, in the Slav, in the King's Indian, there's a lot of Smyslov variations. So he was a really great player, and we're going to miss him. Passed away a few years ago. He was one of the great world champions. Well, now you know more than I do about Smyslov because I forgot what I said. So good luck, everybody, and go Vasily.